Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here at Mount Calvary Baptist Church. That's a little church here in Lincoln Park, trying our best to reflect who we are, what we believe, how we want to love on each other and have folks love on us. We're thankful for your presence here today. Mount Calvary, we're about 126 years old here, and we're excited to be involved in the political process. I don't care about the separation of church and state. Black churches are involved in the political process. We have to be, for the sake of our communities, for the sake of our families. So we thank you guys for coming out and for being here. We thank you, candidates, for coming, for being lambs for the slaughter, if you will, subjecting yourselves to this this whole process. I think people that are willing to run for office have to be a little crazy, but I think. But anyway, if you don't mind, I just want to remind you that here in Montgomery County, we are a diverse county with a lot of diverse needs. But if the needs for all of our people are being met, all of our children, all of our seniors, all of our blacks, whites, browns, Asians, everybody isn't being met, then we're not doing our jobs. And those people that want to support us, that want to work for us, and if they're running for office, they want to work for us. We don't work for them. They work for us. We need to hold them accountable. We need to exact from them their truth and decide whether or not we can live with that. So let's just pray and ask God if he would just bless this, not just this time and this moment, but this entire process, and help them to be true to who they are and what they would do with us. God, we do thank you for this day and the time that you've given us. We're so grateful to you, Father, for how you have blessed us to become community from different places. We look differently, we do different things and believe different things, but you've still made us community, and we thank you for that. We thank you, God, that in this community, we choose to try to support each other and to love each other and to do what you would have us to do. We thank you for those who have come out today and given of their time to listen and learn. We pray that something would be said that would enlighten them and help them to make good choices for our future. We thank you, God, for those who have willingly subjected themselves to run for public office. And we pray, God, that you would give them wisdom and courage and strength and discernment beyond their years, beyond their experience, beyond their abilities to hear, to listen, to be honest, to be truthful, and to serve people with integrity. We pray, God, that not only today would you strengthen them, but throughout this process, if should they be elected, God, give them strength and courage to serve with integrity, to serve you and to serve your people. We thank you, God, for all that you do, and it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Mercury, and thank you and your church community for allowing us to be here today, for opening up the church to allow us to host this County at Large candidate forum. We really appreciate that. So it's really supporting, and thank you. Um, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Harris, and I serve as the president of the National Pan-Hellenic Council of Montgomery County, Maryland. We want to welcome everyone to our inaugural County Council at Large forum. We also extend our appreciation to all of the candidates here for taking time out of their busy campaign schedule on the Saturday to be with us this afternoon. So we really appreciate all of you all taking time out and being here today. At this time, I'd like to recognize any elected officials or candidates for other offices who are in attendance. If you could wave, or if you're in on this. Hello. Hi. Can you just shout out your name? Every song when you're Democratic Senator now. Okay, well, thank you for coming. Appreciate your presence. Um, Before we begin the forum, I'd like to briefly just quickly review the primary and general election process, along with several important dates and voting deadlines. So during the primary election, each voter may vote only within the party they selected when registering, either Republican, Democrat, or Independent. The primary election determines which candidates will appear on the ballot in the general election in November. The general election will determine the final winners for each local office. Early voting runs through June 11th through June 18th, with voting centers open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Please visit the Montgomery County Board of Elections website and use the address lookup tool to find your assigned voting center. And the primary election day is June 23rd. Just quickly on mail-in voting deadlines for those choosing to vote by mail. The key deadlines. Deadline to request a mailed fax for mail-in ballot would be Tuesday, June 16th by 8 p.m. Mail or 11:59 p.m. if you're faxing or emailing. Deadline to request an electronic mail-in ballot. That's going to be Friday, June 19th by 5 p.m. And again, 11:59 p.m. if you're emailing, faxing, or doing it online. And deadline to request a mailing ballot in posting at a local board will be Tuesday, June 23rd by 8 p.m. Just a couple more deadlines to go. Deadline to mail your completed ballot back. It must be postmarked. Again, it must be postmarked by 8 p.m. on June 23rd. And finally, the deadline to deposit your ballot in an official drop box would be Tuesday, June 23rd by 8 p.m. Lastly, we ask all attendees to write any questions on the index cards provided and give them to either myself or Miss Pamela Hubbard. Miss Hubbard is, yes, right there, lady in the green jacket there. And we review those questions and pass them on to the moderator. Okay, thank you for allowing me to get all those deadlines articulated here. We have a fantastic moderator with us this afternoon. We have Miss Jasmine White over there. Hello. Now let me tell you about Miss White. Miss White is the Chief Executive Officer of Montgomery County Media, where she leads the organization's strategy, operations, fund development, and community impact initiatives. Montgomery County Media provides daily local news coverage and civic information for Montgomery County residents, including reporting on local government, education, elections, public affairs, and community issues. Ms. White has more than 20 years' experience in community media, leadership, development, and civic engagement. Her previous roles include being the executive director of the Capital Community Media in Salem, Oregon, out west, director of education and community engagement at Montgomery Community Media, and leadership positions at DCTV in Washington, D.C. She has served as an independent producer, creating content focused on food and justice, voting rights, and social justice issues. Ms. White served 2 successful terms as an advisory neighborhood commissioner in Washington, D.C., where she advocated for residents and helped connect seniors and community members with government services and resources. Ms. White holds a master's degree in film and video from American University and a master's of public administration from the University of the District of Columbia. She became a member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated in the spring of 1997 and currently serves in the Gamma Alpha Eta Zeta chapter in Montgomery County. And thank you for agreeing to serve as hosts this afternoon. We really appreciate that. On behalf of the Montgomery County Pan-Hellenic Council, really thank you. And I did want to mention that the Montgomery County Pan-Hellenic is also joined by 3 other organizations this afternoon to bring this forum. Of course, Mount Calvary Baptist Church, that the National Council of Negro Women, and the Montgomery County Black Collective. Okay, so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Miss White.
Thank you. Okay, let's see if I can. And before I get started today, I just have to make a really quick correction. So the organization is Montgomery Community Media, not Montgomery County Media. If I don't make that correction, then everybody on my staff will have my head when I see them next week. Thank you, Brother Harris. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm honored to be here today representing my beloved sorority and Montgomery Community Media. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being a part of this important forum to hear from the Montgomery County Council At-Large candidates. Democracy requires participation, and today is about civic engagement. It was about information and accountability, and making sure this community, represented by the National Pan-Hellenic Council, the Montgomery County Black Collective, National Council of Negro Women, and Black churches like the one we're in right now, are not only present in the room, but heard, respected, and taken seriously. For generations, these organizations have stood at the intersection of service, advocacy, and civic responsibility. They were founded in part because the Black community needed institutions that would fight for access, opportunity, and representation. That responsibility continues here today. While we currently witness the setback of voting rights in other states, we gather here today in Montgomery County to do our part, which means getting to know and understand the candidates that want to represent you. We know that civic engagement is not about showing up to the polls just on election day. It also means asking hard questions, and it means holding elected officials accountable after the campaign signs come down. To the candidates, today, you are in a room with people who care deeply about Montgomery County and its future. You are in a room with people who are concerned about their rights, their neighborhoods, schools, businesses, and their ability to remain in the county they love. You are in a room with people who are educated, ambitious, and resourceful. Yet many still experience barriers to housing, employment, and economic opportunity. So today, I ask you to speak with clarity and substance, not only to what you believe, but what you will do for this community. To the audience, please listen carefully and thoughtfully. And remember the power you hold when you are informed, organized, and committed to participating in the political process. Now moving on to today's forum. All Democratic and Republican candidates were invited to today's event. The topics we hope to cover were shared with candidates in advance, along with rules for time. The forum would be structured as follows. Candidates will have 1 minute for opening statements. There will be 5 topic-based rounds of questions. For each round, 1 question will be asked of a first group of candidates, and a related question on the same topic will be asked of the second group. So we're asking 14 people 1 question. For each question, I will announce the order in which candidates will respond. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question. If a candidate is directly mentioned by another, they may be given a 30-second rebuttal at the moderator's discretion. We'll have a short lightning round and 3 questions from the audience if time allows. Candidates will have 45 seconds for closing statements. The timekeeper will show a yellow card when you have 15 seconds remaining, and a red card when your time has expired. As the moderator, my role today is to do 3 things. Number 1, guide the flow of the forum by introducing the topic, asking the questions, and keeping the program on schedule. 2, to ensure fairness and consistency by giving each candidate the same opportunity to respond within the established time limits and forum rules. And 3, maintain a respectful and focused discussion by keeping the conversation on topic and helping ensure the audience receives clear, useful information. Candidates, I do not want to interrupt you or cut off your response. However, to ensure fairness, respect, and good use of our limited time, I will step in if a response moves off topic, becomes disrespectful, or continues beyond the allotted time. So please be as specific as you can in your answers and be respectful of the time limits. We have 14 candidates with us today and a lot of ground to cover. So without further ado, let's get started. At this time, we will allow each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves and provide an opening statement. We will start the introductions all the way at the end with Ms. True and work our way all the way back to Ms. Bari. Ms. True, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For those of you that might not be able to see me in the back, my name is Leela True.
I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt. I want to make sure the people can hear you. Thank you.
For those of you in the back, my name is Leela True. If you've been watching anything in the news with the county council, you are aware that we are in the middle of a very critical crisis. Our revenues are not going to be able to cover our expenses. One of the reasons I'm running is my background with the military, with education, with executive functioning. I am in a great place to help the county through the current crisis that they're experiencing. We need a strong strategic plan to address what's happening today and to solve it for the future. I'm one of the best 4 people to put on the Montgomery County Council team to help figure out those problems and bring those solutions to the community. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Steve Solomon. Thank you for having us here today, Reverend Moultrie. The people from Montgomery Community Media, thank you all for being here. A little bit about me. I'm a lifelong resident of the county. I worked as a radio host and producer for 20 years. Over the last several years, I've been involved in a lot of civic, community, and nonprofit organizations in the county. Some of my priorities are growing the economy in this county. We just saw yesterday and this week a contentious council hearing in this county. A lot of booing. Hope there's no booing today at the county council about our budget. So we need to have more money in our county so we can provide the services and resources that people expect. And that's why I want to run for council and be on there. I look forward to talking to you more over the next couple hours. Steve Solomon, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carla Silvestre. I am one of your candidates for County Council at Large, and I am running because Montgomery County is becoming too expensive for all of us to live here. And it's becoming harder and harder to fund the public services that we know our community needs. I have worked deep in Montgomery County neighborhoods for the last 18 years. First, with the Leggett administration in the Office of Community Partnerships, helping people get connected with county services. Now I work at Montgomery College, helping people get connected with education and training so they can get better jobs. And in 2018, I was elected to the Board of Education. I have run and won 2 countywide campaigns in Montgomery County where I oversee the county's largest budget and have to make very difficult decisions like we're making this week on a regular basis. Montgomery County has serious challenges, and you need a leader that's going to tackle those challenges. With Celestial, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Prabhu Selvam. Thank you all for being here today. I had the pleasure of coming here for the Harriet Tubman commemoration event, and so thank you, Reverend, for inviting us back. I was born and raised in Montgomery County as a son of immigrants. I'm a husband and I'm a father. I'm an Air Force veteran that served as an officer in Afghanistan, taking care of injured American soldiers. I'm a humanitarian worker, and I travel around the world to communities both in the U.S. and overseas after they are traumatized by disasters. Working with nonprofits, community leaders, and governments, I help get things done when the stakes could not be higher. We are in a crisis in Montgomery County where I felt that I could not any longer be on the sidelines. And with the experience and wisdom that I have, I needed to get involved in this fight. In the ER, I can't say that I'm only for one thing or another. I have to be decisive and balance the needs of everybody. And that's what we need in this county. We can be truly compassionate and we can be pro-business at the same time. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lori Ann Sales, one of your 4 at-large incumbents. I am running because I've always believed that public service has to be led by people who are going to make decisions with integrity, with people who ensure that the most impacted residents are part of the solution and at the center of our ideas. And most importantly, that government works for everyone. And that's why I have led with my SMART agenda, ensuring that we strengthen our commitment to education from cradle to career and beyond, make a living affordable, advance local food production in equitable communities, revitalize our economy, and tackle climate change. These are the priorities that I've led on, and this is what I hope to do if you will reelect me in the next 4 years. And so I look forward to the discussion and want to thank you all for engaging with us today. And welcome to Mount Calvary. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeremiah Pope. I've been a 20-year resident in Montgomery County. I live here with my wife and my son, who's 10 years old. He actually goes to MCPS. And we've been very active here in Montgomery County for such a long time. I always say that I'm running because, like some of my colleagues here, about affordable housing, about fighting ICE, about making sure that we have the quality services that we need for all residents in Montgomery County, right? But most importantly of all, it's about actually being present and listening to the people who actually got you elected. And I want to be that type of council person. I want to be there, not just on election season, but all the time. I've been in this church several times. I'm a member of Kingdom Fellowship AME Church, and I want to give a shout out to one of my frat brothers. I'm also part of Divine Nine. I am an Alpha. And so I'm going to be that representative who's going to be there all the time. And I thank you for allowing us to put on this program today. And I look forward to being of service to you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim McNulty. I have the honor of serving on the Gaithersburg City Council. I've been twice elected in the most diverse city in America, and I'm very proud of the fact that they've sent me back to office twice. I'm running for Montgomery County Council because I believe the government should make it easier to live, work, and play. And a lot of the decisions that we've been making at the county level have been making it more difficult and more expensive. I'm very proud of the coalition of endorsements that I've put together over the past couple of months. It's a broad coalition, from the Coalition for Equitable Representation in Government, Surge 2.0, which focuses on supporting Black-owned businesses, to the Police and Firefighters Union, to the Greater Capital Area Association of Realtors, and Greater Washington. These are groups that don't always agree, but they agree that I am a candidate that can help support and grow our economy so that we don't have to continually raise your taxes. I know my taxes went up over $1,000 yesterday, and we need to make sure that we don't find ourselves in that situation again.
Good afternoon, everybody. Matt Losack. I'm running for county council because I'm very concerned about others who are running for county council. Many of you know me as the co-founder and executive director of the Montgomery County Renters Alliance. We've been fighting for renters' rights who represent nearly 40% of Montgomery County. Many of them who are people who are Black and brown communities. We're working in every community around Montgomery County, and we are seeing people priced out of their homes. Despite the language that we hear from my colleagues, all friends, but they're talking about affordability, but what they're not talking about is how to protect your homes. I got very worried and reluctantly entered this campaign because we have to see a council and an executive that supports the community, not just a very powerful, influential corporation that wants to see landlord-developer industry make profits at the expense of our communities. We can do all of this together, build more housing and protect renters, but we have to look at it holistically, not as any one drink, waste a lot of assets at the expense of our community. Thanks.
Matt, you are always a tough act to follow. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Hamza Khan. I'm running for county council, and I want to apologize for being late. My younger sister has Down syndrome and lives with me, and she developed mnemonic symptoms. So the first priority we had at home was to make sure she's doing all right. It's also why I'm a bit tired. We've been up all night taking care of her. With that being said, I'm running for county council at large. I grew up in the county. I was born in Tacoma Park. My mom's name is Goldie Khan. Tacoma Park is the town of Goldie Khan. And if you like that one, I'll tell you another one. My name means Lion King, and sometimes my girlfriend, when she's in a good mood with me, calls me Simba. So with those points, getting down to why I'm running for county council, I have a background in politics. I've worked in county politics for the last 15 years of my life, at the state, local, and federal levels. I have been a political pundit on Fox News and Al Jazeera, fighting Republicans to the death on TV and cage matches. And I have a master's degree in democracy and governance from Georgetown University, a degree I got recently because after working in county and state politics, I found that our county has a lot of problems politically. Hey, we'll get into those in a second. Thank you.
There we go. In 2014, that was a quick minute. In 2014, I managed Ike Leggett's last re-election campaign, and the only time I ever heard him say he was ever afraid, he was addressing a room of Alpha Kappa Alphas, and he referred to them as Deltas. For the first time in American history, a 25-year-old today is not doing better than their parents when they were 25. That includes World War I, World War II, Great Depression, Civil War. We were always able to give the next generation better than we had. And the preamble to our Constitution says we can secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. And right now, we are not getting it done for our posterity. And you just look at the cost of higher education, healthcare, and housing, and you just know this to be true. I want to go to the Montgomery County Council to have a legitimate impact in the cost of housing in this community. I have worked in the housing industry for almost 2 decades. I'm an attorney, I'm a substitute teacher, and the only promise that I'll make to you is I'll work hard every day.
Hello, my name is Dana Gasway, and I'm running for county council because I love Montgomery County. I'm a multi-generational resident of the county. My family has been here since the 1600s. The reason why I'm running for county council is because I see a lot of things going on that could be done better, that should be done better, and we need to take the time to actually get things straight. If you look at this neighborhood down the street, when I walk down, I remember this neighborhood being mostly African Americans, and I'm not complaining about the diversity. I'm just saying that between 1920 and 1960, 33% of the homeowners that were actually African American homeowners went from that to 5%. So we have to do something about that, not only because of African Americans, but because of those people who are at the bottom of the barbell economy that we have here. And I'm trying to do that, and I will do it. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Mark Ulrich, and I'm the Kern County Executive, and I'm running for County Council. I've been engaged in a lifelong of service. I went to my first civil rights event when I was like a 12-year-old kid, and I went to King's March on Washington. I took the S2 bus out of Silver Spring to go into D.C. I've been fighting for civil rights and equality pretty much my entire life. At the University of Maryland, I fought to integrate the campus there when I went there in the 1960s. I helped tenant groups buy their own buildings. I supported rent stabilization because I know the only way people are going to be able to stay in their houses is to put some caps on the degree to which the private sector can raise rents. Otherwise, people are going to be gone. As county executive, I've made major funding increases in the things that matter most to people in need. Social service programs in the county, up about 70% in funding in the HHS budget. We poured more money into that. We poured more money into small businesses. My administration passed the first preferences for local small businesses to allow them to provide more opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Ulrich.
Hello, everybody. I'm Josie Caballero. I'm also a candidate running in this race. I am a granddaughter of immigrants. My grandparents came from Mexico. They were school janitors. My mother is a school employee, worked at Head Start, and my father is a police officer. I grew up in small town, rural Texas. And so as soon as I could, I got the hell out of there and joined U.S. Navy, where I became a reactor operator. And I served there for 6 years, fighting in both wars, Iraqi freedom and enduring freedom. But when I got home, I realized something very troubling, is that the fighting that I did overseas did not help our communities as things continue to get more and more expensive, as we see the obtainability of a home is still out of reach. I'm 40 years old and I'm still not there. We need to protect our residents. Over 50% of our county service workers live outside the county. That is unacceptable. It is unsustainable. We have to do more. We have to build workforce housing that gives a priority for our workforce workers.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Fatma Saberi. I'm an immigration and special education law attorney. I've lived in the county now for 24 years. I was born in Sierra Leone, West Africa. I moved here to the U.S. about over 40 years ago, and I have made Montgomery County my home. It's the longest place I've ever lived in my entire life. And I know Montgomery County can be better than what it is. We love it here, but we know it can do better. I think some of the things that we need to do here in this county is to name what it is we have issues here in this county. We have disparities in education. We have disparities in affordability. We have disparities in health benefits. We have disparities that are rooted in this county and in this country that we see now nationally and is showing its ugly head. And if we cannot name the issue, we cannot fix it. I believe that as a county council member, it will be my job to make sure there's an open door policy to make sure that everyone in this room is centered as policies decided. I'm Fatma Saberi, running for council at large.
Don't get too comfortable. We're going to be our first candidate to answer the next question. Our first topic covers, no surprise here, the county budget, property taxes, and affordability. Candidates, you have 1 minute to answer this question. We will start with Ms. Bari, and we'll work our way all the way down through Mr. Lozak, and then we'll have a second question for the second group. Montgomery County's current budget debate includes competing concerns around rising service needs, property tax burdens, and the future of the income tax offset credit. What specific choices would you make to balance fiscal responsibility, affordability for residents, and funding for essential services such as schools, public safety, and equity-focused initiatives?
So to start with, the essentials must always be covered. As a special education attorney and advocate, I have to make sure that our funding goes towards our children. The Department of Education has closed down special education, which means our kids will not receive the services. So that must be fully funded. That's one. Number two, we must make sure that our infrastructure, our transit, affordable housing is protected and ensure that at the end of the day, public safety is funded, right? Because we need it. We need to ensure that at the end of the day, public clinics are funded, nonprofits are funded, and we have a system that addresses the health disparities we have in this county. So for me, raising taxes at this point is not geared for those of us who live in this county. I live in White Oak, and I know people down the street from me who cannot afford to live where they are. They're shift workers, they're hourly wage workers, and they cannot afford any sort of extra funding taken out of their checks. And so I do that.
Was Caballero?
Yes. So when we have these conversations, it's always about we have to do more with less. And the way that we're going to be able to fix this problem is actually create the revenue streams that we actually need. We had a good step that was taken to make sure that we bring a progressive taxation system to our county, but it's not there yet. What we have to do is we have to raise the income tax on the people who make the most and give the tax break to the people who have the least, our workforce, our middle class, because those are the folks that are struggling. We cannot continue to balance the budget on the backs of the working and middle class. It is not sustainable, and it's not going to allow us to pay our public services. We also need to lobby at the state to change Article 15 to allow us to graduate our property taxes so we can actually lower taxes on the people working class and middle class and our seniors aging in place, and actually raise taxes on the people who have the largest homes in the county.
Thank you.
So as you know, I introduced the budget to have a tax increase, and while the council was very upset with it on day one, at the end of the day, they said, these are things we need to do. We're going to have to raise taxes. And everybody agreed they would have to raise taxes. I have a different approach to what I wish we could do. There's a piece of legislation that's going through the legislature that would have raised or given us the ability to raise commercial property taxes like every jurisdiction around us does, like particularly Virginia and D.C. That would give us more revenue, not from residents, but from commercial property. There was a bill that would have given us graduated income tax with really decent brackets. That bill did not get through the legislature. It didn't get through the legislature because Montgomery County's council would not support either bill. And so they stuck with the current system. We have the ability to change this, but you need leadership in the council who's going to tell the Montgomery County delegation, we want to see these changes so we can have a more equitable tax system. We can do it, but you need a council member and council members who are willing to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Elridge.
I see.
Just talk to it.
I think the first thing we have to consider is not only thinking about raising taxes because we're going to have to eventually, that's just the way it is, but also we have to think about keeping money circulating in this county. We have to figure out a way to continue to have the dollar multiply within this county. That way we can pull more money out if we have more money circulating. It's that simple. We got to find a way to keep our money within Montgomery County more so than we have. And I'll give you an example. We keep our money circulating, I think, something like 0.34% of the time, and even in Prince George's County, I think they do 0.69% of the time. So the more money we have circulating in the county, the more opportunities we'll have to get more money out of the county. It's that simple. So we have to figure out a way to do that, and I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to repeat the question. It's a pretty long question, so I just want to repeat it for the last few candidates, and also a reminder to be as specific as you can be. Montgomery County's current budget debate includes competing concerns around rising service needs, property tax burdens, and the future of the income tax offset credit. What specific choices would you make to balance fiscal responsibility, affordability for residents, and funding for essential services such as schools, public safety, and equity-focused initiatives?
I thought she was going to give you the 15-second. She was looking at, you owns an house. If your house is assessed value of $500,000 with the elimination of the income tax offset credit, your taxes just went up $692 a year. To pay for what we committed to this year, if you just look at it in property taxes, that's going to be another $500. You own a $500,000 house, your property taxes are going up $1,200 next year. That's a pretty big jump. I started a small business with a computer and an idea, and we need to expand our economy. Asking the same number of people to pay more taxes is unsustainable. We need more people to pay taxes. And in terms of the budget, we need to sit down in a room together, and everyone needs to say, no one is going to be singled out, but we all need to make some sort of sacrifice so that our fiscal situation in the county is sustainable, so that we are not indebting future generations who are going to pay our bills.
I'm not sure if everybody knows this, but I'm the youngest candidate running here, and I'm not that young. I'm 38 years old. My family chose to stay in Montgomery County because my brother and sister are special needs, and we receive important services from the state for their care. And not a single one of my friends from high school or college still live in this county. Everyone has left. In part, it's because of the affordability crisis. In part, it's because there were very few jobs outside the federal government, and we no longer have much of a federal government presence here. And in part, it's because we are not incentivizing the growth we need for young families to choose Montgomery County in a country that is getting older and there are fewer kids. My focus would be on how do we increase small business revenue in this county? How do we bring back jobs to our county? How do we have people want to invest and live here for the rest of their lives and bring their children to live here? Because right now, if you compare us to every other county in the region, we are failing at that badly.
So, okay. Again, Matt Losak. I'm always a little amused to hear some of my opponents, friends as they may be, who are supported by the landlord, developer, real estate industry, talk about being anti-tax at all costs, while they're delivering all types of subsidy and benefits to the most profitable industry in our region at the expense of working families and people's homes. They oppose rent stabilization. They oppose good cause eviction. They want to see one voice, organized voice in the county council and the executive to make sure that that industry makes as much money as it can without explaining how the rest of us are going to live here. We need a balanced approach. I'm not anti-tax. I was the head of Students Against Reaganism back in college. Don't laugh. I know that didn't exactly work, but the idea that we don't have to pay for our government and our services, or that the government is an obstacle to our freedom and prosperity, is simply not true. We have to think about this in a much more public policy.
Thank you, Mr. Lozade.
Mr. McNulty, for you, we're going to start with our second question all the way down to Ms. True. Montgomery County continues to face growing budget pressures, even as it maintains one of the lowest property tax rates in Maryland, included for commercial properties. What specific steps would you support to strengthen the county's fiscal position, and would you consider changes to property, commercial, income, or other local taxes?
So I think you've heard a lot about, from a number of the candidates, the need to grow our tax base. And we absolutely do. All of the services that our community relies upon, we need the funding to be able to do those. And as we get into more difficult economic times, people are going to rely on those even more, right? We need jobs, we need housing, and we need to make sure that we're not putting obstacles in the way so that the people that want to invest in our community are able to do that. That's things like permitting reform and making it easier to actually build housing. The county is committed to building 41,000 new homes by 2030. But when we passed rent control, the new housing starts went down to nearly zero. At a recent conference, companies were told you can bring us any project in the country except two places, Montgomery County, Maryland, and I believe the other one was in Louisiana. We cannot achieve the goals that we have of bringing in jobs and bringing in housing if we are putting up road.
Thank you, Mr. McNulty.
Hi. Once again, Jeremiah Pope. So I'm a small business owner, right? So I understand about how to create jobs, how to do payroll, and what it means when people are taxing me to death. But at the end of the day, I think we have to have a fair system. We need to be able to cut the red tape. We need to be able to grow our economy, and we need elected officials on the council who understands business, who understands payroll, because we can sit up here and talk a good game, but if we had never created anything, then how can we actually move Montgomery County in the right direction? So I'm not for any new property tax increases. What I'm for is a more balanced approach. We need a balanced council. We need a balanced approach, and I want to be able to grow our economy, and thank you.
Yeah, I know. So, as a member of the council now and having to deal with a lot of difficult decisions this past budget season and receive a inflated budget that was supported by a raise in taxes, we had to make difficult decisions. And so my priority, if I'm reelected, is to do zero-based budgeting. We need to evaluate what's working and get rid of what's not working. Fraud, waste, and abuse is still happening at the local level, and we need to be fiscally disciplined, or we are going to continue to tax our residents out of Montgomery County. I serve on the Health and Human Services Committee as the chair. It's the third largest budget after public safety. And we also have the Economic Development Committee. We just hired a new executive director. We are building our strategic plan and our vision to bring more revenue sources to the county. We passed a progressive taxing structure to ensure the least among us pay less.
What I strongly believe is that we need to have the revenue to live into our values. So every $1 invested in a small business returns $9 of tax revenue in Maryland. We're leaving so much on the table, especially with tons of federal workers and other talented workforce now displaced. We need to lean into our small businesses, permitting reform to make it easier to start a business, and also lean into our workforce training programs at Montgomery College and our high schools so that we have high-tech, highly skilled workers that attract employers to Montgomery County. That will allow us to bring in the tax revenue to live into our values of investing in our public schools, our public health department, and also we need to look at our most vulnerable, our seniors living on a fixed income, families that are living on the edge, especially with how costs have been skyrocketing. We need to make it easier for them to live here. One thing I propose is a senior property tax credit revision to allow greater benefits to seniors. The current proposal increases taxes on middle class and senior property property owners. So the current proposal is not viable for me. We need to revise the income tax offset credit so it's only high-income earners. Thank you.
Thank you. Kyla Silvestre, once again, I think the question is about what are we going to do about the commercial tax base? And absolutely, growing the commercial tax base is the part of the solution to get us out of our financial crisis. But we're going to do that by bringing more businesses to Montgomery County, by making it easier to do business in Montgomery County, to start and grow a business. Yes, we can tax our businesses more, but if it's already difficult to do business in Montgomery County, that's not going to work. So this is something I hear all over Montgomery County. It's too difficult to start a business in the county, and we have to tackle that head on. Thank you.
Hi, Steve Solomon here again, and many of us came in here today, probably took South Lawn to drive in. There are literally hundreds of small businesses in the industrial park within a few hundred feet of here. I'd love to come back in 5 years and see how many are still there. I hope all of them are. It's just too difficult for small businesses to survive in this county. We're not doing enough. And if you look at the budget that was proposed this week, $7.9 billion, it's grown by about $2 billion in the last 5 years. Our spending has grown more than many counties' entire budgets across the country is not $2 billion. So we have to control that somehow and encourage businesses to say, hey, we can survive in this county because it's not really happening right now. A lot are scared and don't want to do business here because they fear it'll collapse. They run on close margins, and we have to do better for our small businesses. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, Leela True. Taxes. I agree with many people on the panel. We have to expand the economy. This crisis that we're in is not a one-year crisis. It's a multi-year crisis. And we might have to raise taxes in the short term to make sure that we can cover critical expenses. But as somebody else said on the panel, we also have to look at what we're spending. Are we spending it in ways that is meeting our priorities? Where is the waste? And we know that there's waste. We can't do what Doge did and just go chop everything down. We have to use our experience and our information and our data to understand where we have to cut. One of the reasons I'm running is I have that experience. I've developed strategies for Fortune 500 companies, multiple Fortune 500 companies. I'm the only one that has the deep strategic experience that I can bring to the council to work with my other council members to develop a long-term strategy to begin to get us out of.
Thank you, Ms. True. Our next question is about housing infrastructure and responsible growth. We're going to start this round with Ms. Caballero and go down through Mr. McNulty before we have a second question. What specific council actions would you support to increase affordable housing, address rent pressure, and prevent displacement of long-term residents?
So I will start with the rent protections of tenants. So it was said that, rent control is hurting development. Well, this is a reality. Rent stabilization is like a speed limit. They're designed for people who are driving recklessly. We have rent stabilization for landlords that treat their tenants recklessly because displacement costs our county so much more when a family has to move and has to find a new school, has to commute longer to work, or just leave the county altogether. I'm sorry, but that is what we have to stand for to protect. And we also need to have more social housing programs because we are not going to be able to use private equity to get us out of this mess. We need the affordable housing, so let's invest and build it. That's what the county needs, and that's what the people expect when 50% of our service workers can't afford to live here. We have to take matters into our own hands and get out of crisis.
Try to get out of this in a minute. A couple of things we actually need to do. My administration's built 9,200 affordable units since I got elected. And we did that by making direct investments into housing building. We work with nonprofits. We focused on building affordability. We've had projects that are 100% affordable for people below 60% of area median income. We focused on that. If you want to control loss, you need policies that say no net loss. If a developer is redeveloping an existing community, they need to be required to replace all the affordable units that they take out. They've got to put them back in. You need to increase the number of affordable units you need. Right now, we require 15% affordable. When you're told that most of your employees come into the county are going to have incomes under $80,000, you need to require more than 15% affordable. And you need to do this in the entire county. You can't let Bethesda build that as a luxury apartment paradise and then think that everybody else in the community is going to has to house the affordable housing. We need to make space for everyone everywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Elrich.
Okay, this is one of my definite pet, I wouldn't say pet peeves, but one of my pet interest points. When I ran for county council in 2022, I made a point of saying that we should have taken the Lake Forest Moral Site back through eminent domain. It's 100 acres. We could have built feasibly between 12 and 1,300 good quality homes there ourselves. So I believe the county needs to take an active stance on actually developing homes itself and not rely on developers to do the developing. We need to look at our properties, industrial properties. I think the county is now, maybe based on my idea, started to look at industrial sites and to develop them. But we definitely need to look at other sites in terms of developing them and having them for people to live. Thank you.
Thank you. And just a quick reminder, if you could focus on specific actions that you would take to prevent displacement of long-term residents and address the rent pressure in affordable housing.
Terrific. So some specific things. The county owns a lot of land. We've started to build on a little of it. We have some projects. But if you don't have to pay for land and you don't have to pay for profit margin, if we increase the funding through the Housing Production Fund and the Housing Initiative Fund to the Housing Opportunities Commission, we can have a lot more affordable housing in this county. Our Department of Permitting Services, a lot of times there's a lot of criticism. The specific is I would install shot clocks. So if you're putting a deck on your house, a reviewer has 30 days to review it. On day 31, it's deemed approved. It is up to the government to move projects through. And if there's predictability and accountability in the construction process, that will lower costs and get us an increased amount of supply. And in terms of displacing people, if we have more supply, that's going to calm down costs. They're going to have more options. But also, if we're developing your things, such as the purple line, I think it is okay to put restrictions on long timelines for properties that can't get redeveloped until the incumbent population naturally moves out.
A lot of the ideas that I've heard so far, surprisingly, I already agree with. But I'll add on to the fact that what Scott talked about in terms of streamlining our permitting must be done across the board, not simply for housing. There needs to be more money put into our efforts to get affordable housing built up quickly. There are a number of projects that have been logjammed that have been already approved and having moved forward with. We need to follow up with those developers and find out what the heck is holding them up. So we've heard some ideas about why that is. In terms of helping avoid the displacement of residents who've been here for so long, including my family, we have to come to terms with the fact that the market is working against those who live here. We have no choice but to keep rent stabilization in place for the moment. That is because of the fact that people actually need to live and exist in Montgomery County. It's not always about the profit margin. That doesn't mean it always has to be there, but it has to be there for right now. We also do need to, again, drill down and talk about small businesses, our economy. It's none of you are stupid.
I like the topic of rent stabilization as the first and only regional nonprofit dedicated exclusively to renter outreach, education, organizing, and advocacy. This was the first issue on our agenda. Rent stabilization is not a harm to development, despite what my colleagues say. Mr. Goldberg insists that it's an obstacle. Mr. McNulty insists it's an obstacle. It's false. It's a narrative that's pushed by the landlord-developer industry because they don't want to be regulated. They want unbridled profits. We believe in a balance. A landlord has a right to maintain a profit margin and keep up with legitimate expenses, but communities have a right to be stable. As someone said before, my colleague, she is absolutely correct that we are seeing incredible costs at displacement of people from their housing, especially for our seniors and especially for our students in schools. But that's costing us nearly half of the county budget. If kids do not do well academically because they're moving from school to school, we're all going to pay the price. Let's listen carefully. And nature, witness at his hours is what we hear.
Mr. McNulty, would you like a rebuttal? You have 30 seconds.
So do you want me to do the rebuttal and then do my minute, or do you want me to just take it together?
You can rebuttal, and then we'll move on to let you answer the question.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I've written an op-ed back in February. You can go on my website, jimmcnulty.org, and it takes a look at the effect of rent stabilization. The city of Gaithersburg, city of Rockville, we don't have rent stabilization, and year over year, February to February, rents actually went down between 1% and 2% in Rockville and Gaithersburg, whereas in the county, they went up about the historical average 2.1%. So that's the market at play. But in Gaithersburg, we did put in transparency for fees. We also put in protections where if people feel like they're being gouged, they can appeal that rent increase.
Thanking time. So I'm also going to give Mr. Goldberg the opportunity for his 30-second rebuttal, and then we'll move on for your 1 minute to answer the question.
Sure. So I am not ideological about rent control. I've said publicly, I want affordable, high-quality housing for every person who lives in Montgomery County. If rent control is the way to get there, great. But I've just looked at the data. Even in an uncontrolled environment, rents only go up 2 or 3%. And when builders are saying we don't want to build, we can't get financing, I think that is something we have to seriously examine amending so that people can have high-quality, affordable housing.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. And Mr. McNulty, I'll just repeat the question. So we've had some discussion in between. What specific council actions would you support to increase affordable housing, address rent pressure, and prevent displacement of long-term residents?
Thanks so much. So I've actually proposed a $40 million down payment assistance fund modeled on what we've done in the city of Gaithersburg, which provides up to $40,000 towards your closing costs in the form of a zero payment, zero interest loan that would get repaid when you either refinance your primary mortgage or you sell the property. This allows families to begin getting equity, building generational income, and it's also freeing up rental units for other families. We would extend this to our teachers, our first responders, our healthcare workers, people who are supporting our community but can't afford to live in our community. As a realtor, I see the down payment being a challenge for many people who are trying to get into their first home. The average age of a first-time home buyer now is between 40 and 47 years old. And when you're living paycheck to paycheck, it is almost impossible to save up that money. So this would allow working families to be able to get into that first home. And after 9 years, we actually will be able to continue doing this year after year without going back to the general fund.
Our next question, we'll start a new question with Mr. Pope and go through to Ms. Bari. As the county considers infrastructure development, zoning, transit-oriented growth, and data centers, how do you ensure development is equitable, environmentally responsible, and does not leave historically underserved communities behind?
It's a lot on that question. For me, I don't support data centers. I think it should be a moratorium on data centers until we get the actual facts how it's going to hurt the environment and also hurt different communities here in the county. In regards to, I think you said infrastructure.
Yes, so infrastructure development, zoning, and transit-oriented growth.
Okay, so I am a big supporter of transit-oriented growth, especially when we're building, I'm calling the outside the interior of certain neighborhoods with the input from the people who live in those communities where we can build close to transit. We see more residents want to be closer to the buses. They want to be close to metro. So I'm definitely supportive of that. But I like to have a caveat on that issue is that I want to make sure that we actually get the voices of the community itself. Because a lot of times what we see is that we have these conversations and people don't talk to the residents who actually live in that community. So we don't really get much buy-in. So I think working with the developers, with the Department of Planning, or on the type of zoning that we want to see in those pockets will be the approach that I would take.
So, as the candidate who has introduced legislation for creating regulations for data centers, since we currently have no legislation, no guardrails, if someone was to introduce an application for a data center now, they could do whatever and wherever they would want to. So, number one is ensuring the regulations are right before there is any shovels in the ground, and retroactivity to ensure that any new amendments will ensure that any new applicants who come after we pass this legislation will have to adhere to this legislation. You also asked about environmentally sustainable and healthy, and making sure the environments in the communities we keep these data centers are how we maintain infrastructure. We have our climate action plan, one of the most ambitious climate action plans in the country. We also have our environmental requirements to ensure that water quality and to be continued.
We have to be very strict about how data centers develop in Montgomery County. The one that's proposed in the Dickerson site would produce 150,000 gasoline-powered cars worth of greenhouse gas emissions every year. It would give us $50 million in income from taxes when that company's making $5 to $7 billion a year. This would be polluting our Potomac River. This would be increasing our utility costs because electricity bills going up. We've already experienced that because of data centers in our region. So we have to get the right deal for our community members. Otherwise, the answer is no. Number two, with infrastructure, we have to pay attention to especially the up county and east county parts of our county. When we have more dense development, we have to make sure that investment in infrastructure parallels that in those communities. And also, we need to ensure that we are paying attention to how we develop our programs with affordable housing. We look at the NPDU program. We can modify that so we have a higher requirement for affordable housing. We can look at our senior property tax credit so we ensure that seniors have no longer a 40-year dwelling requirement to just tap into that bonus. So we need to be more.
Thank you. Again, I'll just mention the question again because it's a long question. As the county considers infrastructure development, zoning, transit-oriented growth, and data centers, how would you ensure development is equitable, environmentally responsible, and does not leave historically underserved communities behind?
Thank you. I think that one of the good things that Montgomery County has done is to do a racial equity analysis when they do many of the decisions that impact the county. And so every time the council is making these decisions, they are well aware of how this is going to impact our communities in Montgomery County. The East County is a community that has had minimal investment throughout the years. And slowly but surely, and I commend the current council and executive, investment is coming back through the Viva White Oak project, through Montgomery College satellite and future campus there. So it's about bringing anchor institutions, bringing jobs, bringing education so that communities that have been underinvested like the East County will thrive.
Hello, Steve Solomon, again here. How many people drove here today in a car? So did I. We cannot stop focusing on cars. That's how most of us get around in this enormous county of ours. And if you go up to Poolsville, it's hard to go there by bus. And we have to realize that many people will always be driving their cars while also committing to transit and building that way too. I see Glenmont, where I live 5 minutes away from, still in disrepair, 2 minutes from a metro station. So we're not building there. Infrastructure, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about, right? Building roads and sidewalks and stuff like that. But we have to do that. On University Boulevard, we have bus lanes that I think should not be operating all day. They should be only during rush hour times to allow for more car traffic to use those lanes in other times than that. So that's one change I would make on the council.
Thank you. And for our remaining candidates to answer that question, again, how would you ensure development is equitable, environmentally responsible, and does not leave historically underserved communities behind?
Thank you. Leela True. So I'm going to mention Carla's name positive way because I do agree with you. We have to make sure that the racial studies that are happening on the county council continue. We know that there's communities that have been waiting longer for schools to be redeveloped to others. I would make sure that we continue to prioritize those schools to make sure that those schools do get the resources they need to upgrade those schools and build new schools. Also, with infrastructure, stormwater management, flooding, I think the Aspen Hill area is struggling. And so I would look to those areas to bring infrastructure to those areas to make improvements. In terms of data centers, I've been asked about data centers a lot. Clearly, data centers have to be built in a way that do not degrade what's happening in our community. One thing I totally disagree with is a 2-year moratorium. It should not take us 2 years to figure out what we need to do for data centers. Maybe we don't have them and we need to come to that conclusion, but waiting 2 years is the exact same thing I talk about and we're industrial business friendly. Thank you. It's important, sorry. Jaspari?
Thank you. So, equity. That means communities who have not, up to this point, received the same resources should take priority. I live in the East County. I live in White Oak.
And I can tell you, we've been talking about Viva White Oak for a very long time. So if we're talking about development, we make sure that the communities that have not received the good roads are focused on full better roads. The communities like mine that have not received the proper job placements in there receive those jobs. As to data centers, let's make sure that when we're building, we're not building it in communities of color. We're not building it in minority unwed communities because we know that happens a lot. And when we talk about equity and making sure that as we decide where we'll put transit, we put better transit where it has not been. Montgomery County, if you go in the East County, we don't have a good transit system. And I want that for our communities.
Thank you. Our next question is around public safety, child mental health, and community trust. They're going to start this round of questioning with Mr. Elridge. What is your vision for public safety in the county, and how would you use the council's legislative and budget authority to support violence prevention, mental health response, and trust between law enforcement and the community?
I'll bet in a minute. Okay. The county has implemented programs to make sure we have responders to criminal incidents that are not always police officers. Instead of turning every incident into a police incident, we're trying to separate out the mental health cases from cases where we're actually dealing with criminals. And that takes police off that scene and lets the proper people deal with those issues. In general, we need better mental health services in the county. We used to have a system of community clinics. If we have the resources, I would restore the community clinics, but we've made major investments in nonprofits that provide mental health services to people in the community. We need a push at the state level
to change the criminality of many charges, particularly for young people, so they don't wind up in the juvenile justice system, but they wind up getting mental health supports. Those are things that are in the bailiwick of the state, not in the bailiwick of the county, but I've been pushing on the state to recognize they have to change the way we approach crime in the community, people with youth.
Yes, it is a long question. I understand. Do you want me to repeat it? Okay. And before I do, I just want to share that the information from the questions came from a lot of different sources. So what we attempted to do was take some of the questions that people submitted and also some of the information that, people were interested in, group those into topics to create these multi-part questions. So thank you for your patience in understanding why the questions are so long, but this group of people have a lot of information that they want to get from this group. The question is, what is your vision for public safety in the county, and how will you use the council's legislative and budget authority to support violence prevention, mental health response, and trust between law enforcement and community?
Okay. First and foremost, my vision for public safety, I believe personally that we need to get back to, number one, I think the way police this area or in Montgomery County needs to change. I think they need to get back to more community-oriented policing, more hand-to-hand, face-to-face policing. In terms of preventing violence, I think the more we get involved in actually having the police in our community and having them be a part of the integral part of making sure that people are well in their communities, then we're going to be better off. In terms of, let's see here, violence prevention, I've already mentioned.
Microphone? Talking to the mic?
Hello? Oh, there we go. In terms of violence prevention, I also believe once we get the police in the communities.
Thank you.
So I have a 13-year-old, 11-year-old. The 11-year-old went to kindergarten on a computer screen for a year. The kids are not okay. They are experiencing behavioral issues. When we sent them back to school, we never did the intensive mental health and therapies to re-socialize them that we needed to. We just kind of forgot about the last year and went back to normal. If you ask any law enforcement officer, how do you prevent people from interacting with law enforcement? They'll say economic opportunity. If people have hope, if they have a future, if they can provide for themselves, and if we're talking about younger people, if their time is spent in a productive way, we can avoid them interacting with the police, getting in trouble, and they could have incredible, prosperous lives. My wife is a therapist, so I think she's always analyzing me, but we need more mental health services. We need more therapists, and quite frankly, those jobs pay really bad. So that's an area where resources will get us more benefits.
Remaining candidates for this question, I just want to remind you that the question is, how would you use the council's legislative and budget authority to support violence prevention, mental health response, and trust between law enforcement and the community?
I'm going to tell you two stories. The first story is about my own family. My brother is autistic and nonverbal, and we had an incident with the Rockville police where someone in the community, when they saw him outside of a Chipotle, waiting for me to get out of the car, decided to call the police on him. If it hadn't been for culturally competent officers who spoke Urdu, Pashto, and Hindi that day, there could have been a very different outcome to this story. Cultural competency in a county that is as diverse as ours, where 1 in 3 people are born in a foreign country, is a requirement for our law enforcement. We are down 15% of our police force right now. We need to reinvest in that and recruit the best minds we can, which includes increasing the starting pay for our police officers significantly for us to have a functioning law enforcement system. But in addition to that, I want to tell one more story, and this is going to go over time. I'm sorry. A young man was actually who met me a couple days ago, was actually a refugee from Afghanistan. He was one of the students at Blake High School who was shot at a few days ago. He looked at me and thinking,
I appreciate
You already told me this.
I appreciate the fact that you want to tell a story. One, that we need to be fair. You got to take candidates into the ways. Thank you to the. And so, right. And so we give Mr. Lozak an opportunity to answer the question. I will repeat it. What is your vision for public safety in the county? And how would you use the council's legislative and budget authority to support violence prevention, mental health response, and trust between law enforcement and the community?
Well, first, I'd have the police arrest my colleague here for going over. Secondly, I think that we have to also look at our police department. I agree with Hamza about recruitment. Being this far behind in recruitment of police officers is reprehensible. We also have to change the culture. We understand that police have to be held accountable. Any place in our government where we see a large concentration of power needs to have oversight. That said, the police have a very difficult job. We need to take some of the responsibilities that we placed on police officers and put them where they belong. Mental health is not a police officer's responsibility, but we force them to have to deal with it. We've asking police to deal with crime prevention. That's not their role. Their role is to arrest criminals. We need to be looking at social programs, stable housing. And by the way, I can't wait to hear the renters who have had their rents go down 2% in Gaithersburg. That's a miracle to me because I haven't seen that anywhere in Montgomery County. We need to think about how we mix our players to create stable environments with lower crime.
Public safety and mental health was a very personal topic for me. I was one of the 3 people who survived the Discovery attempted suicide bombing in 2010 in downtown Silver Spring. And it was not lost on me that I was in the situation I was in because somebody did not have access to proper mental health care. But I'm standing here before you because I did. And I ended up founding a PTSD support group at St. Patrick's Catholic Church here in Rockville. And we've worked with survivors of domestic abuse, veterans, people who are crime survivors like myself. The Montgomery County Police, as you heard, have almost a 20% vacancy rate, and they don't feel as supported as maybe they should by certain members of our government. I said from day one that I will sit down with MCPD and reset the relationship between the council and the police. I'm very proud to have been endorsed by the police union, but my colleagues are right. We need more mental health services for our children, for our adults as well. And there's so much more to say about this. Come see me after.
Hi. I think for me, having a young son and living in eastern part of the county, I hear time and time again that when people want to see the police come, they're doing so much other stuff, they're not even able to come, right? So for me, I think we need to definitely invest in our police officers, making sure we have the right professionals here in the county serving us, right? And then we also need to have more partnership programs for our youth. Our youth need to have more things to do in the evening time. And I don't see that really happening. I see a number of kids who normally go home, even their parents are not there because they say they don't have anywhere to go else in the county. So that allows them to get into trouble. And so I want to see more of that happening, and also making sure we, like you said, some of my colleagues said, invest in mental health professionals, trying to get in the right people to help all our students and work with different nonprofits, because we have a lot of good nonprofits here in the county that we can actually work with who are doing good things. And I want to make sure that.
Thank you, Mr. Hurst.
Well, thank you.
Our next question, same topic, starting with Ms. Salins.
Thank you. I was proud to
Ms. Salins, I'm sorry, we have a new question. It is the same topic, though.
Okay.
Many families are concerned about child and teen mental health, youth violence, and the lack of safe, constructive spaces for young people. What specific investments or policies will you support to strengthen child mental health services, youth development, and safety?
Thank you for the question. As Chair of Health and Human Services and with a background in public health, prevention is key. We know that in Montgomery County, year over year, behavioral mental health has been the #1 issue. And so that's why we've made it affordable and accessible by ensuring that our culturally competent organizations can provide free mental health care for our residents and our students. That's why we've invested in wellness centers in all of our schools, K through 12, so that even communities can also participate in mental health services at a reduced or free cost. We also have the mobile crisis outreach team. If you are in a crisis situation, you contact our 911, we will send a mobile crisis outreach team. That's protocol. It hasn't necessarily worked, and so that's something we need to reevaluate. We've also lowered the education requirements for law enforcement. We've provided $20,000 sign-on bonuses and more to come.
As an emergency room physician, I've taken care of countless children in crisis. Especially over the last 2 years, I've seen countless immigrant children coming in with suicidal thoughts and other emergencies. Often these children end up in the ER for days, sometimes a week, waiting for inpatient psychiatric treatment. It's heartbreaking. And so we have to advocate strongly at the county level and with our state colleagues to open up more beds for children, more outpatient treatment options for children. I also have a degree in public health. And from this background, we have to look at screening and referral in our schools. Every child should have the ability to get screened for mental health and referred appropriately. We need to work with the parents closely to educate them so they can best support their children. This is something that's critical for us, especially at a time when Medicaid, Affordable Care Act subsidies, and so many other resources that we depend on are being stripped away. We have to be strategic. We have to do community outreach, especially in immigrant communities or communities where there's limited trust in authorities. We have to be proactive about bringing mental health care to all families.
Thank you. I think as a school board member, I know that one of the best ways to get mental health services to our students is to provide the mental health in the schools. And the Linkages to Learning program that the county funds does just that. But we also need our therapists in those programs to reflect the community. So we need to recruit more therapists that reflect the student population so that they can relate to them, so that they can open up, and so that the therapy can be most effective. I also know that we need to recruit more therapists that reflect people of color in this county. So Montgomery College and University of Shady Grove are growing their behavioral health programs to do just that. And finally, more youth employment. We talk a lot about after-school programs, but some of the best after-school programs are programs that help our children get jobs, because it's such a valuable life skill to have a job as a teenager. So those are the things that I would support as a council member. Thank you.
Off of what Carla was saying, I think the pipeline from MCPS to a job in this county is a crucial thing that we'll all have to work on. Do kids see a future for them being not only able to afford to live in this county, but find a job that is good and high paying? Are we preparing kids that way as well? Something else that I do is I serve on our sports advisory committee in this county, and one of our main concerns is finding more opportunities for kids to play, and for seniors, adults, all those. And I think it was Jeremiah who said finding more things for these kids to do might keep them out of trouble. Perhaps being in a place like this more, or perhaps being out on the field more, finding more opportunities. And we're seeing a lack of opportunities, especially in East County, in North County, in northern, like in Germantown areas. We don't see those opportunities for kids to play more. Sports have been great. I grew up playing sports. I worked in the sports industry. It teaches you teamwork. It teaches you how to win, to lose, all those things. So I'd love to see more of that in the county.
Thank you. As a reminder, the question is around specific investments or policies you would support to strengthen child's mental health services, youth development, and safety.
Okay, Leela True, specific policies and resources. So schools are the right place. Right now, we have counselors in the schools, but the problem we have is we have too many openings. I coach at Churchill. I also coach at Quince Orchard. I've worked with these students, and I know that they have real needs. As a coach, as their support person, if the counselors, if we have 21 openings, I think we have 21 openings when I checked yesterday for counselors for these schools, we have to fill those positions. Recruitment, retention of those positions are critical, and that's where I would put resources. Additionally, one of the things that's happening in the schools that I think is fantastic is coaches and athletic trainers are starting to get more training on mental health. I would continue that investment. Our coaches, I'm a coach, are underpaid, under-resourced to do that work. We should bring them more resources because they are meeting these kids where they are needed. As a coach, I know that I can make a difference for those kids.
Thank you. Ms. Bari?
Thank you. First is respecting our communities. And respecting our communities mean that, I'm sorry, I'm having some issues. I know, but I'll say this. We don't have enough adolescent psychologists or behavioral therapists in our schools. We need to incentivize mental health workers. That means making sure that we reach out to people who look like you and me, because our children are going through a lot right now. And as we talk about mental health issues, I don't think we really prioritize our kids as much. Our children, our Black children, are criminalized more than any other community children in this country and in this county. That means we incentivize retaining and bringing in therapists who look like them to provide them with the resources to make sure that they are not ending up in the criminal law system.
Thank you, Ms. Barring. So we definitely need to expand our community school programs that actually bring in more therapists into our schools. But I want to talk about the thing about how the kids are seeing everything that's happening in the world. They see people that are Latino getting ripped out of schools around the country from ICE. We need to make sure that we guarantee that those students are not being terrorized by those ICE officers. We need to make sure if they're even close to schools, we arrest them for even being close to those schools. Secondly, MCPS just recently passed a piece of policy that is going against our LGBTQ students. What that means is that if a child has trust within the school to express their gender identity of who they are, the parents can ask and the teacher has to tell that student or tell the parent that their student is presenting something different in their schools. This is a crisis that we know that LGBTQ students are suffering from suicidal ideation from things like this. We're going to stop it.
Our next questions are focused on education, employment, and economic opportunity. We will start this round with Mr. Gassaway and go through to Ms. Sales to answer this question. What are your ideas around strengthening the connection between education, workforce development, and employment so that more Black and Brown residents have access to jobs, leadership opportunities, and career pathways in Montgomery County?
Well, first of all, a lot of what has already been said has been ideas that I've already put forth the last time that I ran for council, but we have to align our high school curriculum for those graduating seniors with jobs. Everyone has said it, everyone knows it, but we have to. We have to align it such that those graduating seniors are eligible to get into companies that are employing people and able to go into that company at a rate where they're able to sustain themselves within this county. So the first thing I would do is I would push for more understanding of what our curriculum needs to be in order to have people able to work and work successfully in the county. And also I wanted to say, in 2006, I was the first one who mentioned the need for wraparound total services for mental health students for children.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Gassaway.
Everyone looks excited and energetic, so I'm going to throw some statistics at you. The starting salary for a college graduate in 2025 was 8% lower than it was in 2024. So the model of telling kids, go to college, go into six-figure debt, you're going to get a great job, does not work anymore. What our schools should be promoting and enthusiastically educating our kids is careers in the trades. AI and computers will not replace plumbers, electricians, HVAC technicians, carpenters, anything where you need your hands and your head.
that can't be replaced by a robot. These are incredibly good jobs, and our school system has done a good job about getting kids into these career pathways, but we can do better. And in fact, people going into the trades, that shouldn't be like a plan B. That should be celebrated as a long-term viable professional option.
We have one of the best community college programs in the country at Montgomery College, and it has one of the best trade school systems in the world. We do need to be pushing more children to consider when they graduate from high school going into the trades. And we have that pipeline ready to go at Montgomery College, which is one of the best investments this county has ever made. It is incredibly cheap in comparison to what we pay for MCPS. And students who grew up in the school system are eligible for reduced and free tuition through it. What I would also add is that in our local region, those who go into the trades are paid significantly higher than not because we have a dearth of individuals who are plumbers, who are engineers, who are pipe fitters. And that opportunity is huge, just like Scott pointed out. We should also consider, in addition to that, that we shouldn't give up on college, but we do need to change what high school and college look like. Our curriculums are not designed on a nationwide level to get people the skills they need in order to succeed in America today or in the world. And on top of that, we have
Thank you, Mr. Khan.
this county of diversity.
Mr. Khan, thank you.
Somebody next?
Yes, sir. This is the same question all the way through to Ms. Sales, and I think we're about halfway through, so I'll repeat the question.
What are your ideas around strengthening the connection between education, workforce development, and employment so that more Black and Brown residents have access to jobs, leadership opportunities, and career pathways in the county?
Well, first of all, I agree with my colleague, Scott, that we're not seeing the kind of profits in jobs that we have seen in the past for college graduates. That said, people who go to college and complete college educations earn considerably more than anybody else. I'm a union man. I grew up in the union. I'm a card-carrying union member now and an activist. And I can tell you, if you go into the trades and you get a good job, you're going to be doing pretty well thanks to our unions. And so I absolutely support the dual process of education, of going into trades or going to college, but we shouldn't diss either one. I do believe, as someone who served in the Peace Corps, a family of people who served in the military, family that marched with Martin Luther King, that staying active and public service is a very important learning experience for all of our students. I had to work inside as soon as I could. My parents required that I work, but when in between high school and college, I had to do public service, and after college, it was the
Thank you, Salazar.
So my children are 18, 21, and they are both living this dichotomy of decisions about their future. My son is graduating and has decided he's not going to go to college because he wants to be a commercial airline pilot, and decided it's going to be a lot more affordable to stay home and take flight lessons at the air park than to get into $400,000, $300,000 in debt, like his big sister, who's graduating from the Savannah College of Art and Design, and he saw how much debt that they're going to be in. And he's like, that I can't do that. And these are the, unfortunately, choices that people are going to make at very, very young ages, right? So I agree with a lot that's been said here about the possibility of connecting with the trades. And back in 2017, when I first ran for the Gaithersburg City Council, I had pitched an idea about creating an apprenticeship program with our small businesses and our local unions and MCPS and Montgomery College so that we can create this pipeline into these good paying jobs. I grew up with a plumber right across the street. Great guy, great family, and he has 2 beautiful vacation homes down in the Eastern Shore. It's like, I want that.
Thank you. I think for me, it's a little bit of both, right? Growing up, my grandfather, he used to lay bricks. And so I would go out with him and he would teach me how to do that, right? And he also did woodwork. So he taught me how to do woodwork. So I was thinking my wife married me for my good looks, but I think it's more because I know how to lay brick and I know how to use my hands. So I'm a big supporter of the trades, right? but I'm also a big supporter of higher education. If you're able to do higher education, that's good. And I would hope that we can work with different business folks and D9 members and other professions in the community in order to partner with our school system so we can have people seeing multiple examples. Because this day and time, you need multiple examples of how to make it here in America. And so I'm a big supporter of both the trades and having a college education. Thank you.
The first tenet in my SMART agenda is about strengthening our commitment to education from cradle to career and beyond. That's because I believe in the power of an education, continuing your education, and of course, supporting the dual enrollment program where you can graduate with your high school diploma and an associate's degree. It's how I made college more affordable. My daughter did the same thing by going to a community college, and so did our governor. I would also want to prioritize not just apprenticeships. I'm the daughter of a labor member. She was a social worker for the county for over 25 years. But we are the third largest biotech corridor in the region. And so we have to think about innovation. We hear about AI. We need to ensure that our children are not being replaced by AI, and we're exposing them to a curriculum that has a diversity of experience to ensure that our students are not just going to be another spoke in the wheel of a business, but they are building the next business of the future.
Thank you. Our next question, still within the same topic of education, employment, and economic opportunity. And we'll start that round with Dr. Selvin and work our way all the way through Mr. Elrich. The question is, although the County Council does not direct how MCPS spends its funding, it does approve the school system's overall budget and has an important oversight role. How would you use the council's budget oversight authority to push for greater accountability and measurable progress on racial disparities in student achievement?
The first proposal that I put on my website is something called a Lift Every Learner Task Force. So I want to create a task force that keeps our school system accountable. Black and brown children have a 50% performance gap when it comes to math and science in this county. Those children are just as capable as all of our children. We are failing them. That is leaving so many of our children in a position behind those of their peers and puts them behind when it comes to the workforce as well. It's so important for us to keep ourselves accountable and measure our outcomes constantly to make sure that we are doing right by our children. In addition to that, we have to think about the fact that most of our children in school right now in 10 years are going to be adults. So we have to think about their future right now and make sure that the workforce pipelines in biotech, in healthcare, where we have a significant shortage already, areas where we need services anyway, we invest in those so that those children are set up to really thrive. And also, higher education is critical. That creates generational change. I'm a K-12 graduate of MCPS. My son is an MCPS student this fall. We can create generational change for families if we push those Black and brown children ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. As a sitting school board member, I appreciate that question, and I hope to be on the county council, and I hope to be on the education committee, because the education committee is one tool that the council has to hold MCPS accountable. They can bring the superintendent and his leadership team to answer any questions that have to do with outcomes and how they relate to the budget. That's one thing I would do. The other thing is, as a board member, I've been on the board for 8 years. I know what levers to push to keep the system moving forward. There's going to be 5 new council members, 3 new school board members, then we have a relatively new superintendent. You need someone on the county council that knows the MCPS budget inside out and knows how to push it forward so that we can get the outcomes for our students and for our community.
So a while back, when I ran for school board many years ago and lost, but I learned that the school board's decisions over how the county spends their money in schools is not even there. It's through MCPS and administration and front office there, and it's half of our near $8 billion budget. And yes, is it being spent completely properly? Perhaps not. And back to what we were talking about earlier with vocational training and things like that. I see my friend, the electrician, Krista Tishy, back there. I worked as a carpenter for 4 years. I made more as a carpenter when I was 24 than I did when I was 44 working at radio. So it's certainly a lucrative and possible job there. I also am the son of tailors. My grandparents taught me to sew, as you can tell by my incredible attire today. But yes, I can sew a button on. And, these are skills that I think a lot of us need. And there are jobs out there in this county, as well as obviously tech jobs that prepare for. We have incredible special programs and consortiums as well.
To repeat the question, we're looking for how would you use the council's budget oversight authority to push for greater accountability and measurable progress on racial disparities in student achievement?
Thank you. Leela True. I ran a school for 3 years. I was a CFO and COO of a school for 3 years. I've been in the classroom. I've done a strategic study for the Clinton Public School System. So I know that Carla is right. It's reporting. But what's important about reporting is what do we ask them to report? Because without the right data, without the right information, we're not going to know how things are being done. Schools in one part of the county need something different than schools in the other part of the county. And we have to make sure that as we measure, we don't measure in a way that creates an imbalance for our minorities and the people that have less advantages. We have to make sure that we're measuring in a way that brings the right resources to those locations to support those individuals.
Thank you.
Oh, and since I have 10 seconds, Jim, I know a couple of ways to become a pilot for free. Talk to me later.
Resource sharing, I like it.
I know that's right. Ms. Barry, yes, thank you.
Okay, so transparency and making sure that throughout the year you have school board members come in and speak to you and speak to us about what it is they're actually doing and seeing the actual results. We know that our children, the Black children, the brown children, the children with disabilities, have lower level of progress than any other group of children in our school system. We are quite aware that, for example, a couple of summers or summer ago, we learned about the racial epithet against our children in schools. What should have happened, I think, should have been, we should have brought those who run the school system to the table and say, what are you doing to address this? And to look at the actual results of the resources that they're putting in place and how it impacts our children.
So data is important. I mean, with data, we're able to say, this is where the money should go. This is where we are able to address a lot of these issues. We have a lot of that data. We know that our disparity of our Black and brown kids and our folks with disabilities and even our LGBTQ communities are suffering. But they are suffering from bullying. They're suffering from fear, existential fear. They may not have, a roof over their heads. So we have to be able to start investigating deeper and figuring out what resources we can give to those families of those kids that are actually in desperate need. So it goes beyond just what we tell the school to do, but what we do as a council to make sure that the resources are going to the families that need the support so their kids can study in environments that let them study. It's very important, and we need to make sure that we address those issues.
Thank you.
So the sad thing is, and I served on the council for 12 years, the county government has no control over the school system. We can't even control their budget. Under state law, we're mandated to spend a certain amount of money every year. We cannot direct where it's spent or how it's spent. But I also say it, I think in one way we're barking up the wrong tree in terms of where we're putting the emphasis. In our community, minority kids enter school typically at the level of a 3-year-old rather than a 5-year-old when you hit kindergarten. The consequences are these kids do not catch up, and kids who are not caught up by the time they leave kindergarten tend to never get caught up. So if you want to do something, You universalize early childhood education. You're included for 2 years to 4-year-olds. You've paused the blueprint and the focus on a lot of things that have very little educational outcomes. And you say, if you've got limited resources at the state and county level, put that money into universal early childhood education. You do that, you change the way those kids leave kindergarten, you change the way they leave kindergarten, you change the rest of their lives. Everything after that is triage.
Thank you. Our next topic and our last topic for these the rounds of these topics, we'll start with Mr. Goldberg, and we'll go through to Dr. Selvin. That topic is small business, nonprofit equity, and community services. Very small businesses, including Black-owned businesses and Black-led nonprofits, face barriers in county contracting, grants, and economic opportunity. What Ruth loans would you support to make county procurement and nonprofit funding more transparent and accessible?
So right out of college, with a laptop and a dream, I started a small business. Through a lot of dumb luck, grew it to now employing 20 people, and we manage about 1,200 single-family homes for like foreign service officers throughout the capital region. The procurement process within Montgomery County is really big. It's really complex. It's really nuanced. I will be the first to admit I am not an ideas guy. But what I am really good is at finding smart people who have the best ideas, figuring out what the best path forward is, and implementing that. So this has been a problem for years, decades, how our county does procurement. It has slowly but surely gotten better. But on the council, that is something I would really want to look at, because that is a very good equalizer to assist women and minority-owned businesses.
One idea that we could explore in terms of this is creating a guidance program where we have individuals whose job it is to guide Black and minority-owned businesses and nonprofits on how to procure contracts in the county. The county does have a procurement expo every single year. We could be expanding its marketing opportunities so that we can get out to more of these communities. And given the fact how diverse our county is, it would be well worth us for us to do a full audit from top to bottom to see how many of our contracts currently are being assigned to minorities and to women-owned businesses and nonprofits. Currently, we have a very healthy nonprofit system in this county. Does it always get the resources it needs to get to the communities that need them? No. And if we were to go through the council and do our job to look at what needs to be done to get that done, we could probably do it very quickly with the help of full audit. So I'll leave it on that.
It's a good question. Thank you for it. As a nonprofit leader for now almost 2 decades, I sit on the boards of nonprofits. I've worked with Montgomery County for almost 2 decades, seeking support. The nonprofit community in our county is critical to expanding the capacity of service delivery to our county. We've been doing it in communities, in apartment buildings across Montgomery County. We've been working with the school system, other nonprofits, and clearly the way in which the county does procurement for nonprofits needs to be simplified. The public needs to see what good the nonprofits are doing so we understand where our tax dollars are going. And we need to be able to promote that better on the websites and in public. One of the other things that makes it difficult for nonprofits is extensive and varied reporting requirements to the county. We have to put in every month something like 20 documents just to get paid for what we do. Some other nonprofits have to put in more than that. It needs to be standardized and made reasonable.
Jim McNanty, I don't think I said my name recently. So one of the basic roles of government is to create the conditions where all of us thrive. And I think any
business owner, whether it's a small business, whether it's a nonprofit, somebody running an organization, they want a shot. They want the opportunity to compete. So in Gaithersburg, we have an Office of Racial Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and we've been taking a look at, how do we do our contracts? How do we communicate to the business community when there are opportunities? And I think that's where we really need to focus, because, if we're constantly advertising RFPs or other opportunities in the same journals, the same websites, we're missing an entire community of folks. So we need to make sure that we are going to the places where small businesses are, so that folks in the East County, folks up county, folks inside the Beltway, all have an equal shot. And then they have the chance to put forward why their business, why their nonprofit is the right mechanism for that particular project.
So just to repeat the last part of the question, because it's a long one, what reforms would you support to make county procurement and nonprofit funding more transparent and accessible? And this was specific to small businesses, including Black-owned businesses and Black-led nonprofits.
Yes. So for me, being a small minority business owner and talking to other small minority business owners, I've heard this conversation for decades, right? And we have elected officials who've been here in the past or whatever, having these same conversations over and over again. And so for me, I think we have to continue to work with actual small minority businesses, talking to the leaders who are already at the table, who are part of those small minority business, like groups like Surge, like the African American Chamber of Commerce. Those people who understand how we move Montgomery County in the right direction. Because time and time again, we continue to have these conversations. So we want to make sure we do the investments. We want to expand opportunity, making sure we hire diverse procurement professionals. Those are steps that we are be able to take. And also having a council person who will stand up and speak about it right then and there versus now. Always talking about it and who understands how this works. Thank you.
So something that we did in the city of Gaithersburg was to take out some of the identifiable information. They've done it at the school system in the past to ensure that you are not making biased decisions when you are awarding contracts. We also extended the minority business enterprise legislation to ensure that we are doing everything we can to meet the bare minimum requirement of at least 20% doing business and spending $1 billion of our taxpayer dollars with minority-owned businesses. We also have our nonprofit sector that is very engaged in the county, especially as the chair of Health and Human Services. We go through all the nonprofit budgets, and similar to any other contract, we have to evaluate our nonprofits for their effectiveness. If they are not meeting the needs or the scope that they were intended to, we have to reevaluate their continuation.
When it comes to businesses and nonprofits, those who have the most to contribute and the most to gain are often systematically left out. When it comes to accessing grant programs from the government or nonprofit funding, the paperwork is too difficult. We have so many offices, different reporting requirements, different application processes. I work full-time for a humanitarian nonprofit myself. I know how that feels. So we need to make sure that we have a single permitting process for all small business startups. We need to have a single application with a single timeline reporting cycle for nonprofits so that regular people, minority-owned businesses and minority-run nonprofits, especially those led by women, can navigate this without hiring a lobbyist or a lawyer just to navigate the paperwork. So we have to make it more accessible to everyone. And also, let's lean into our small businesses that address our critical needs like childcare, home health. Let's empower those primarily minority women to start their own businesses and to work in the fields that they're already doing. That's so difficult, often at minimum wage, where they can actually build something much bigger for themselves and their families while still contributing to our community's critical needs, and especially for our seniors and our children.
Thank you. Our next question for Ms. Silvestre through Mr. Gasolay is still in alignment with nonprofit equity and community services, but incorporates healthcare access as well. Montgomery County health data shows persistent racial disparities in maternal and infant health, behavioral health, and other health outcomes. particularly for Black and Hispanic residents? ALL, how would you use the council's budget and oversight authority to improve health equity and ensure trusted community-based organizations are a part of the solution?
Thank you. When I worked for the county government under the Leggett administration, I worked closely with our minority health initiative. So I'm very familiar with the work that needs to happen to be intentional, to have urgency, to address our health disparities for African Americans in this county, especially around maternal infant health. So it's about investment, it's about addressing chronic disease, it's about addressing the root causes that are having people have these chronic diseases, addressing the lack of maternal health for Black women. So it's intentional, it's investment, and tracking the data to make sure that we are chipping away at these very real challenges. Thank you.
I was lucky enough to serve on the Grants Advisory Board for the county several years ago and learned of the millions of dollars that we allocate every year to thousands of nonprofits across the county. And that really is where a lot of where the government falls short, they rise up for people and help. And a thing I've also noticed is that the outreach we do is a good job in this county, but a lot of people just don't know about services that are available. They're like, I didn't know that was there. I didn't know that was there. I didn't know about the huge food insecurity issues that thousands of people have in this county. I volunteer with a food pantry every week. We feed hundreds of families, and they wait in line. They have to do paperwork as well. We give them free food every week, and that's across numerous churches and civic centers in this county. And there's a lot of need here, and we can still do better. Thank you.
I grew up with a strong awareness of the medical disparities in a community. My father was an executive director for the American Sickle Cell Anemia Foundation. And this is during the early time where there wasn't a lot of information about sickle cell disease and you know how it really impacts the African American community. I watched how it was really critical for him as a nonprofit to get the information out to the community. As a county council member, I think the first thing is we need information, a scorecard on the health disparities and specifically where they exist. We can follow that up with supporting nonprofits that are truly addressing those communities and making sure that we measure those outcomes as well. That way, we know where the disparities are and we're putting our resources in the spot that can really make a difference. I think that that's very doable within our resources, and we have to make sure that we are prioritizing those resources, even given the stress and the strain that we're going to feel from the budgeting in the future.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question for Ms. Bari through Mr. Gassaway. Montgomery County health data shows persistent racial disparities in maternal and infant health, in behavioral health, and other health outcomes. In your role as an at-large council member, how would you improve health equity and ensure trusted community-based organizations are a part of the solution?
Okay, as we know that 54% of morbidity rates are within our community, within the Black women communities. We have higher rates of cesarean, and 1/3 of these are considered preventable. I am one of those who had fibroids, and they impacted me. And today, I'm childless, but blessed be to God that I'm healthy regardless. And the county needs to invest in more culturally competent care, expand the mental health resources, as I said earlier, providing funding, expanded funding to organizations like the African American Health Program that services our communities and can help to bridge that gap. And ensuring that people who are serving us look like us, because that's the reality. We don't have enough of those within to make sure that there's improved equity in health, including mental health and health.
So I love the portion about the question about getting communities and nonprofits involved in this process. As a nonprofit, leader myself that has managed millions of dollars of budget to do types of work where we're trying to investigate health issues in marginalized communities, the key is coalition building. It's about bringing in nonprofit groups in early in the process to help design the policies and help drive the money in the places where it needs to go. A lot of times we'll come up with ideas and policies, but then we get no community buy-in and then nobody knows what's available. So we have to get people involved at the ground floor to show that we're designing policy that is going to affect the communities that we're trying to serve. When we get that buy-in and we have the legislation passed, and then when we win, it's a community victory because then the community knows what is going to happen with that money. So get the buy-in.
So I'm a big believer in using the community groups as the basis of our health programs. And after COVID or during COVID, we spun off ARCOS away from having everything directed by the HHS department to allowing the community groups to have a larger voice in where money went and what problems were addressed. And I would keep pushing for that if I'm on the county council. I think that's important. One thing we needed to change, the council directed us at one point to spread out the grants, not keep giving the same people the same grants. The result of that was that in 1 year, almost half the people who were getting grants that were long-established grant recipients got their grants cut. I was first to go back and add additional money to the budget to put those people back into the budget because the people who made those cuts didn't realize that longevity in the community and established, respect in the community had a value, and we needed to do that. I would make sure that we don't get lost on that train again. There's a tension between many nonprofits and the right nonprofits. And for me, Mr. Arnold, is money, the right nonprofits. Get a question again.
Sure. The question is, now I have to find the question. The question is, Montgomery County health data shows persistent racial disparities in maternal and infant health and behavioral health. In your role, particularly for Black and Hispanic residents, how would you improve health equity and ensure trusted community-based organizations are part of the solution?
Okay, well, the first thing I think we need to do is I think we need to increase the level of connectivity that the Montgomery County Health System already has, the clinics. We need to expand those. We need to make them more of a triage situation because most people who, by the time they get to the hospital, have already had these illnesses for quite a period of time. So I think we need to run the health clinics in Montgomery County that Montgomery County runs as triage centers, to expand them, have them do more for people so that we can catch those diseases earlier and we can have them be able to get well without having to go through the difficulties of going into an extended situation where they're now in the hospital for a long period of time.
Thank you. Okay, candidates, we have made it through our 5 rounds of topic questions. We are going to have a really quick lightning round question that's 30 seconds for each candidate. So I'm going to ask our timekeepers to set their thoughts for 30 seconds and to give you a 50-second yellow card warning and also the red card again when your time is up. We're going to start this round with Mr. Khan through Ms. Silvestre. The question is, I'm sorry? It's on a roll question. Just assuring the Reverend that everyone here will honor that 30-second time limit.
Cross my heart.
Then we're starting with you, so be the example.
Lord guide me. All right.
Within your first year in office, what is the one measurable result this community should expect through your leadership as an at-large council member?
I'm going to sit for this question because I've been getting dizzy the last few questions. Forgive me. The one result you can expect is that constituent services will focus on extended outreach to your communities. The Divine Nine community is a big part of who I am as a fraternity man myself. And you can expect that Black church communities will be at the forefront of everything we do. Thank you.
under time. Look at that.
I just need to sit.
Matt Losak. Again, my top priority is going to be looking at our government efficiency and effectiveness. I think that we should have established a task force to reinvent government. Our county is no longer a small town. It's a large county with urban districts with over 1 million people, and we need to have a county government that functions as a modern government.
My first priority is going to be getting our economy turned around. So that means getting rid of the obstacles that are in the way of creating jobs, creating housing. I really think it's important to get my down payment assistance program going. And I began to say, in 9 years after we start this, as the loans get to be repaid, we can do another 140 loans every year without going back to the general fund. And it becomes this engine to create housing opportunity for people. Those are the kinds of programs that we need to invest in that have a multiplier effect as they continue to grow.
Thank you. I'll repeat the question. Within your first year in office, what is one measurable result this community should expect from your leadership as an at-large council member?
I think for me, it's about being present, always being there. People, can always access me. But then also is going to be making sure we put that $692 back into your account again, because that was just, it was inappropriate. But thank you.
So in addition to continuing to listen and maintain an open door policy, I want to ensure that we have more ideas around revenue. This year's budgets, my 8th budget in my political career, was the most contentious, disorganized, challenging, and emotionally charged. So I want to ensure that we have better ways to balance the budget and evaluate how we are spending taxpayer dollars before we get to the budget season.
I want to modify our permitting programs or small business grants and our workforce pipelines to significantly grow our economic future so that we are not in a place where our revenue's contracting when our budget's going up by hundreds of millions of dollars and we're cornered year after year. We need to be able to live into our values and have the resources to do that. As a physician, I'm one who walks with people in their struggle and takes bold action to make their lives better. That's what I intend to do as an advocate on the council.
Carla Silvestre, and the one thing I want to focus on is expanding childcare in Montgomery County. Childcare can cost as much as college tuition, and I think we can make it easier to open family-based childcare centers as well as bring private providers to our school buildings. Thank you.
Our next lightning question, starting with Mr. Solomon through Mr. Goldberg. What is the most urgent issue facing Montgomery County residents, and what will you do about it in the first year on the council? It's the lightning round, so 30 seconds.
I'll stand up. That takes a few seconds already while I think about the answer here. Urgent thing, I think, is our economy and businesses. I want to make sure in the first year they see that I'm there for small businesses. We have 6,000 storefronts in this county. I want in the 4 years after I'm elected for all of them to still be here and growing, to see that we have the ability to get things changed quickly through permitting and inspections, not a system that takes months or years that drives businesses away. That's the priority I have in my first year.
Unfortunately, the most important thing right now is to determine what expenses are not critical. So in my first year, I'm going to be bringing a lot of bad news because we're going to have to decide what we can and can't support. On the other side of that, I'm going to be working hard that first year to build the economic recovery that the county needs to bring back all the services that we're going to need to support the community.
I'll say effort of Birdie, and that includes ensuring that we have stronger smart businesses coming onto the county, making sure that Black and minority-owned businesses have access to all the resources they need to bird and hire, making sure that our county becomes more welcoming. As we know, with the gutting of the Voting Rights Amendment, we will see some migration from the South coming over here. And that means we need to ensure that there is a space for funding for businesses coming in here and making it easier for them to access resources. Thank you.
We're going to repeat the question for our remaining candidates. What is the most urgent issue facing residents in Montgomery County, and what would you do about it in your first year on the council?
So housing affordability is our most urgent issue with 50% of our service workers living outside of the county. I want to make sure that we actually have a strong system that will provide workforce housing development. I also want to make sure we bring housing stability to our residents, expanding rent stabilization across the county, as well as ending all loopholes so that way residents can plan year after year for the future of their families.
All the things that people talk about cost money. I'm going to focus flat out on changing the tax structure in Montgomery County. Do what Northern Virginia did 12 years ago. They looked at their economic situation. They were told that transportation is the biggest impediment to economic development, and they raised major taxes on commercial property to build infrastructure. I will put forward plans that mock or modeled on what Virginia does in order to give us the ability to raise the revenues we need to provide the transportation so we can do the economic development. If you're like Virginia, look at what they did. Nobody else wants to do that.
I would say the first thing I'm going to do is look at this budget and find out where the waste is and try to correct it. Also, I'm going to go through each and every one of the 7 districts and make sure I listen to everyone in there who wants to have something to say and doesn't feel they have a place to say it. I definitely feel that the most important thing we need to do is we need to communicate with the residents in Montgomery County and find out where they want us to go, as opposed to us just leading them without permission.
I think we need to be more kind, compassionate, joyful, and find common ground. To quote Mark Eldridge, all the things we want to do cost money. 100% true. I want to expand our economic ecosystem so our federal friends that are unemployed right now have jobs, so people who are looking for better jobs that pay higher wages have them, so we can have the tax revenue to pay for the nice things that the people of Montgomery County expect and deserve.
Thank you. Initially, we had built in some time for our audience questions, but we started a little bit late today. So for any of the folks in the audience that do have questions, I want to encourage you to write that down and maybe we can collect them and figure out how to get them also to the rest of the audience and make sure that you have the opportunity to connect with any of the candidates here today to continue the conversation. Also, we want to leave a little bit of space after the forum is over for you to specifically speak to the candidates individually and ask those questions yourself. I see Mr. Harris coming my way. Do you have a call or a question for me? Do you have a question? So I actually knew the person who wrote this question to help me read it because I can't read it. Thank you, sir. And so while we do that, I just want to share with the candidates, we'll have this one question. We have 30 seconds to answer this question. And after that question, we will do a 45-second statement for each candidate. So this question that's going to be asked, we will start with Mr. Lozak, and then we'll make our way around the table. 30 seconds. To answer this question that he's going to ask. Yeah, tell me what. Oh yeah, here we go. I'm also. Want me to read it? I want to know what it says for it.
How will you protect the residents of those under your road from the BRT projects, the land grab at the Fayette County, at offering acquisitions of the property at low land values, or just where the residents have no choice but she. Oh no, Sue, nothing.
15 seconds.
Now the question is 30 seconds. So the question is, how do you protect residents? Don't run. Don't go. Hey, so? How would you protect residents' rights from issues related to the BRT project on Veersmo Road?
Which project? BRT.
Bus Rapid Transit projects. Veersmo Road
So any thoughts that you have about how to support residents during that project, anything about the project would be sufficient. So 30 seconds. Thank you.
All I can say to that is that obviously I'm concerned about any impingement on people's property and their quality of life, but I'm a big supporter of bus rapid transit and transit in general. We're going to need to be able to get around without having, and to get to cars, things are going to get more expensive, and we need to be, as some of my colleagues have said, more economically viable, and that means having a strong transportation infrastructure.
I spent a lot of time on Veers Mill Road, living on Norbeck for a few years. So it's important as a realtor, property rights are something that I had to learn a lot about. What I would say is that anytime something comes before me, because Gaithersburg has zoning authority, I always look at, where does your right start interfering on somebody else's? With bus rapid transit, we shouldn't be taking people's property if we don't need to. I think it's important to work within the existing the way where we can. But there is a public process that.
Thank you, Mr. McNulty.
Thank you. I think for me, I'm a supporter of public transit, right? But I'm also a supporter of people's rights. And I think we have to have a balanced approach. And what actually was going on is that people feel that they didn't have a say on their property. They never was even contacted about what was going on. And we hear this conversation time and time again about the access and accountability and transparency. And so I would like to make sure the project is stopped at the moment till we can actually get some weigh-in and some buy-in from the community.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question again?
I can try. The question was about how would you protect the rights of residents that live along Veers Mills Road in reference to the BRT project?
Well, I too am a strong proponent of transit. That's why we made Ride On free. We want more people out of their cars and into multi-occupancy vehicles. The best way is to ensure that we're having meetings in the community in multiple ways, multiple languages, multiple neighborhoods, and we go to the people instead of making them come to the planning commission to hear about these complicated plans, and we take time to actually answer questions and blow up the plan so they know what the impact is.
Thank you.
The important aspect is deep community engagement and doing it at hours that work for people and in venues that work for people so you actually get their opinions. We have to be transparent about the reasons for why we make decisions. BRT systems in places like Cleveland, Ohio have led from millions of dollars in investment to billions of dollars of economic growth. So there's actually a secret sauce there if you do it right. But we need to do it in a way that protects our seniors. So we have the senior property tax credit that we modify so that when property values go up, seniors and those in a fixed income are not hurt by the economic growth that's happening around them.
Bus rapid transit is a good thing, and we want to see more of it throughout Montgomery County. But when you're developing and you're living right next to the project, it's hard. I can see the Purple Line station from my front lawn. So I've been living what this is like. And yes, it is difficult, but effective, early, and often communication is important. And in the case, if businesses are affected, we have to support our small businesses so that they survive during the construction process.
The sidewalk on my street, which is on the opposite side, was replaced recently after conversations with the county, and they got that done. And it was a little bit of inconvenience for a lot of benefit, I think. The Purple Line has been a lot of inconvenience for a long time, as Carla has said, that we're at the point where small businesses have had to be compensated by the county so they could stay open. I certainly don't want that kind of effect on residents of Veers Mill as we take away property from them as well. Hope we don't do this.
Like that move, I took the microphone. Leela True, one thing I learned in leadership positions is communications is very difficult. In these kind of situations, in order to really be transparent, you have to have a good communications plan so you know that you're reaching the constituents that are being impacted. One of the rules, you have to tell somebody 7 times, okay? And I know that's a pain, but that's the only way people are really going to feel the transparency. So that would be my goal in this situation, is to make sure that we communicate upfront and we're hitting the 6, 7, 8 communication mark.
Justin Spry.
Well, I live in East County. I live in White Oak. So the bus rapid transit has always been a great support of mine because it helps us get from one end to the other. Much easier, it will, I believe, but definitely not at the expense of taking away any person's right to their property. It's having a transparent conversation and having upfront discussions on what it will entail and ensuring that people's rights are protected, because our individual rights are very, very important to us.
As it was said on this panel, bus rapid transit and good transit actually is an economic development. That's what this brings to the community. As someone who's endorsed by the transit union, I'm going to continue the fight for that. Now, when it comes to the process, I want to make sure that people understand what is a benefit when they actually have this. As we know, people are getting killed on our streets. So having sidewalks is incredibly important for the safety and general community understanding that we are here to protect them.
So I think the most important thing is, first of all, notification, but there were public meetings on this. And so people could see where this was going to go. The other issue is being fair with the people we take property from. We should not try to get away with minimal offers that don't really reflect the value of the property or the value of the disruption. We've got to be willing to pay people fairly. I know a little bit about this because growing up in Silver Spring off of Forest Glen Road, my family moved into a house 2 years later. The Beltway was taking part of our backyard and put in a chain link fence. So I've seen that happen before personally.
Thank you.
I think it's a question of people who have established lives in places for a period of time having their lives disrupted. And as a result of that, they're not feeling happy about it. And what we need to do is really make them more included into the process of developing these ideas and allowing them to have their opinions and to cry if they need to about the situation, and then make sure that we are totally.
Thank you.
Proper hydration has its consequences. We do a lot of things to a lot of vulnerable communities, whether it's environmental justice and equity. Like the Purple Line is a great example. We do a lot of construction and we're disrupting a lot of these communities, and it is very, very disjointing. So whatever projects we do, BRT, roads, transit, we have to be cognizant of what we're doing to the people who have to live with the construction every single day.
I'm going to keep sitting. It keeps me on time. What I would say is that we have to keep in mind, like everyone else has said, the rights of the property owners through direct contact and constituent outreach to them. But we also should consider the fact that we need to have fair market value offered to them for their properties. That might not have been done in the Viersmill BRT situation. I do not know, but it is probably something that needs to be addressed across the county. And we also need to keep in mind the economic costs whenever we view these projects. And I support BRT. The cost of these projects in the long term is huge. So.
Thank you. So because of time, we're going to move on to your closing statements. You have 45 seconds for a closing statement, and we're going to start with Mr. McNulty.
I wasn't expecting that. Thank you, everybody, for coming. You could be anywhere on a gorgeous Saturday. The days are blending together. But honestly, thank you. Montgomery County is at a crossroads, and we need leaders who understand that we need to grow our economy. We need to attract jobs. We need to build housing. I have a track record. I've been on the Gatesburg City Council now my 5th year. I've approved over 3,500 housing units. We've attracted hundreds of new jobs. And we've managed to maintain the lowest municipal tax rate of any of the large cities in Maryland, and we have no debt. I want to bring that fiscally responsible approach to the county so that we can afford all the important services that we need and that our community relies on. I'm Jim McNulty. Thank you for being here, and I hope I've earned your vote.
Thank you, Jim. Once again, I'm Jeremiah Pope, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. As I stated earlier in my opening, I've been in Montgomery County for 20 years. I have a son in MCPS. I'm actually married my college sweetheart. And to me, it's all about who do you believe is going to do what's right by you, right? Who do you believe is going to be accessible? Because we can talk about all the things we want to do, and you've seen some of us here for years, right? And nothing has changed. And so for me, I would say, as my grandmother would always tell me to do, you have to earn people's support. And you get 4 options, and hopefully I can earn your support. I'll always be there. You can always call me, and I'm going to make sure I'll always be a fighter for you. Thank you.
So good afternoon, and thank you to Mount Calvary and all of the hosts for hosting us today. This is my home church, so I feel very at home here. Again, my name is Lori Ann Sales. I'm running for re-election, the only incumbent, and so I hope you'll send me back and give me 3 partners who will help me continue to advance my SMART agenda. All of the questions that we talked about today were all focused on how are we making government work better for everyone, and especially the least among us. If we don't have principled leaders who are leading with integrity, who center the people closest to the pain and driving the solutions, and ensuring that government truly works for everyone by evaluating how we are doing the work of the people, we will not have a great Montgomery County. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Dr. Prabhu Selvam, an Air Force veteran, ER doctor, and humanitarian aid worker. Out of nearly 30 people running for council seats, both in district and at large, I'm the only healthcare provider, the one, at a time when healthcare is under threat, and it's a major aspect of how affordability is threatened for us as well. I'm someone that lives in a world where I meet people in their struggle with families who are facing end-of-life situations, life or death situations, and also I've served in the battlefield. In these environments, I take so much pride in having that honor to be the person that takes that accountability, that weight, that suffering from people, and is then held accountable to actually do something about it. I'm comfortable living in that world. That's who I will be as an advocate, as a representative on the county council for all residents of Montgomery County.
Well, thank you for staying here till the end, and thank you for hosting this event, a very important election coming up. I think the fundamental question is, of the 17 candidates, you get 4 votes. Who is ready to lead on day 1? Who is ready to tackle these very difficult issues that you heard about today? I bring the experience, the knowledge of Montgomery County, and I'm backed by dozens of elected leaders who have worked with me through some of these tough issues, but the most important endorsements are yours. So I ask for your consideration and for your vote on June 23rd. Thank you.
Again, I'm Steve Solomon. Thank you to everyone here. I think panelists reset that timer 118 times today, so good job on that. I bring to you someone who's been serving in civic and community and nonprofit groups for many years, Democratic clubs as well. I grew up in this county. We've said a lot of things about the bad. There's just so much good in this county. I think that's why we all live here. The people, the opportunities. I love to eat, the restaurants. I still haven't eaten in every restaurant in this amazing county. I'm running because I think we could do a little bit better. I want to grow our economy so we have the money for all the things we love in this county, our libraries, our parks, our health services, and we can do that if we grow our economy a little bit so we can afford our $8 billion budgets and not spend more than we have. Thank you.
I'd like to echo thank you to everybody for taking the time and energy to come out today. My name is Leela True. I'm a West Point graduate with a general engineering degree. I have an MBA from Purdue. I've commanded troops in combat, earning a Bronze Star and a Meritorious Service Medal. I have run businesses of 400 and more people, developed strategic plans in multiple organizations. I am an educator who has coached hundreds of students, taught in schools, math and science, and as well, I am a mother of a son at the Naval Academy. I bring a unique set of experiences to the county council team that I think that will be very valuable to help our community, to grow our economy, and to take care of the people in our community. Vote for Leela True.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. My name again is Fatma Tabari. I bring a unique perspective as someone who's a special education attorney and advocate, an immigration law attorney and advocate, the one who has a smart business in addition, the one who has worked at the county council as a female staff, and the one who has been executive director with the county executive's office. I bring this lens to the county council. I am the one person here who has focused on helping communities navigate through systems that were not made for them. I am the only one here who has, on a continuous basis, spoken up for communities who otherwise have not been spoken up for. And I would bring that to the county council. I have reviewed budget, I've defended my budget, and I know how to work that as your county council member. And if you honor me to put me on the county council, I will center you as a community and address the issues that impact you. Please check out my website. You'll see everything you need there.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for all your attention today. I'm Josie Caballero. I am a Navy veteran. I served on reactors during war on an aircraft carrier. And what you can get from that is that I have the courage and the stability to flip the switch when the time is right, and have the leadership to tell you why. I want to just say on this panel here, I have built coalitions. I have the widest organizational endorsement coalition of mostly everybody here. And let me explain why. They understand that I can go into any room and get things done. I can get endorsements from the AFL-CIO and the Sierra Club. I can get endorsements from progressive organizations as well as other more conservative organizations. Vote for me, Josie Caballero. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Mark Ewich. I've been serving UO for about 20 years now. And I've always been committed to social justice. My administration has driven social equity. We've driven economic development. We've driven affordable housing. And I want to continue to be able to do that. But I want to be realistic about how we move forward. There is no magic in how you're going to raise money to the degree we need it next year. We need to change the tax structure. And I go back to Northern Virginia. In 2012, a Democratic council goes to a Republican legislature and says, give us the authority for different taxes on commercial property. They got it. They built the infrastructure and businesses came. They transformed Tyson's Corner. We could do the same. People looking for a blueprint don't have to look any farther than across the river. I've looked. I know what we can do, and we need to do it.
Hello, my name is Dana Gasway, candidate for County Council at Large. I'm a former Army veteran. I'm a multi-generational resident of Montgomery County. The reason why I want to be your county council member is that I'm trustworthy, I'm honest, I'm not beholden to anyone, and I feel that I will do the best for the people of Montgomery County because I have my grandparents, my parents, all looking up from heaven from me, and they want me to do a good job. I know it. Thank you. Once again, Dana Gasaway, candidate for county council.
So I just want to thank you guys for coming. In this election next month, over 200,000 registered Democrats won't even vote. So I appreciate you not voting, but also coming out to educate yourselves on who you're voting for. I'm just a regular dad, husband, small business owner, attorney, and substitute teacher who wants to see Montgomery County do a little bit better. It's already a great place, but we can certainly make it greater. As Reverend Moultrie kicked us off with, they said you have to be a little crazy to do this. The former mayor of New York City has a great line. He says, if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 things, I think you should vote for me. If you agree with me on 12 out of 12 things, see a psychiatrist. So thank you guys for coming, and you have 17 great candidates, and I, Scott Goldberg, am asking for one of your 4 votes.
I'll stand for this one. My name is Hamza Khan. I grew up in the county. I have 4 nieces in the school system, 3 nephews in the school system, and my family wants to make the step for upper home. I really hope you'll consider voting for me. My issues include affordable housing, public safety, education spending, and focusing as much as we can on making this county's economy come back to what it should be. With that in mind, Yes We Can is our slogan. So Yes We Can, make Montgomery County better. Thank you again for being here.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for sticking it out. Matt Losak, mattforcouncil.com. I have more than 3 decades of senior experience in federal, state, and local government and as a nonprofit leader. I served in the White House, and I've served in just about every apartment community in Montgomery County, helping to organize tenants, teach them about their rights, and make sure that our housing stock is stable, affordable, and quality. I know how this government works, and I know how it doesn't work, and I know what to do on day one to begin to fix it. This council has to be a council that reflects the interests of the community. We have to be very careful about who we choose. All of these people are good people, but we are ideological. And some have ideologies that are not going to benefit the community. So keep in mind who you're voting for. And I asked for all 4 of your votes.
There are many important issues we cover here today and many others we did not have the opportunity to explore. It was a great testament to our democracy and election process that residents have opportunities like this to hear directly from candidates so you can make informed choices at the ballot box. I want to thank all of the candidates for joining us today and for sharing their perspectives and vision from Montgomery County. They are here because they understand that this community matters. Please, let's give them all a round of applause. Thank you also to the audience for showing up, listening carefully, and being a part of this important event. These candidates are running for the 4 at-large seats on the Montgomery County Council, which means the people elected will represent residents across the entire county. I encourage each of you to continue speaking with them, reviewing their positions, and making sure you understand where they stand on the issues that matter most to you, your family, and your community. I also invite you to stay connected with Montgomery Community Media and visit mymcmedia.org. We cover local politics and elections, public affairs, education, and community issues as a public service to Montgomery County residents. Our local news coverage is available at no cost because we believe access to trusted civic information is essential to an informed community. It has been a pleasure to serve as your moderator today. Thank you again to today's organizers, partners, volunteers, and of course our wonderful timekeepers. I'll pass it back to NPHC Montgomery County President, Brother David Harris.
Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. I'm hoping everybody can join me in congratulating our absolutely amazing moderator this evening, Ms. Jasmine White. I think she moderated an excellent forum, and all 14 candidates here, thank you again for coming out, being here with us, sharing your views with the community. It's so impactful for the community to hear what candidates are, what's on their mind, what you're thinking, and where the county needs to go. My committee, Miss Pamela Hubbard, just kind of staying away. Thank you so much. She is organized this amazing forum, and again, thanks to everybody, and finally, thanks to Reverend Moultrie and Mount Calvary Baptist Church and your church community and congregation for allowing us to be here today. He's allowed us to make an impact on the community. And then my co-host organizations, thank you for all of the support. We'll let you get to your next triple task event that you all had. Thank you again.